Hello, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are in the country, and welcome to today's Harold Rogers Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, otherwise known as PDMP, New Performance Measures Training. My name is Gabriela Castellanos, and I am the TTA Specialist on the BJA Planning, Performance, and Impact team. We are so happy that you've joined us today, and we are excited to present this information as you are in the January submission period. For your awareness, this session is being recorded and will be posted on the BJA YouTube and BJA multimedia pages in the coming weeks. But today we're going to have presentations from the PDMP team. A couple of announcements before we get into our content. Again, this session is being recorded and a copy of the presentation slides will be given to all participants following this training. If you experience any technical difficulties during this session, please reach out to my colleague, Angela Beebe, through the Q&A function, which I will explain in just a second. One common technical difficulties that users experience is access to WebEx via browser versus the app. So if you have access to the WebEx app, we recommend that you use that platform instead. All right, into the Q&A. We encourage you to ask questions as they arise throughout the presentation. However, please note that for today's session, given the volume of participants and interest in the session, we will only be taking questions directly through the Q&A function. So if you'd like to submit a question, please use the Q&A function on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. We will answer questions as they come in, but for more complex questions or those that require additional explanation, we will address those at the end during the open Q&A portion of the session, or we will follow up with you via email. We will also, just a reminder, once again, we will send out the presentation slides after the session. And if after today's training you still have questions or think that you need additional help, we can provide you with one-on-one assistance. We will provide you on who to contact for that towards the end of this presentation. The chat box will be used by panelists to share links and resources with you, the participants. Here is our agenda today. And with further ado, here are our presenters. There is me, like I said, Gabriela. I'm the TTA specialist. And here are my colleagues. There's Sarah Shanice and Armani. They're so excited to present the information to you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Armani. Take it away, Armani.
Thank you, Gabriela. Yes, my name is Armani, and I will be starting the presentation with the performance management section. Next slide. Performance management at BJA involves the process by which programs and grantees regularly collect data on their grant activities. Using performance measures, this will help to determine whether grantees are implementing activities as intended and achieving their desired goals and objectives. It also helps to capture outputs and outcomes over time and to enable pre and post comparisons that can be used to assess change. The performance measures create data that supports the analysis to identify trends, patterns, and insights that can inform the program for decisions and improvements. It also demonstrates the success of the grant activities and compliance to regulations. You can find additional information using the several resources on the OJP Performance Measurement and Progress Reporting Information Portal on the BJA performance websites listed below. Next slide. BJA uses performance measures for these focus areas. To understand how funds are being distributed, BJA and OJP regularly track progress towards goals and develop various reports using annual key performance indicators. When it comes to tracking grant activity, as well as progress towards those program goals, these will enable BJA to respond to external requests and data calls, whether it's a congressional inquiry, media request, to identify areas for success and potential areas for improvement. Performance measures can help to identify the need for training and technical assistance or revision to program design or implementation. Then finally, BJA uses performance measures to comply with the law and complete BJA's required reporting. The tracking of your progress through these performance measures are required by various legislative acts, such as the Government Performance and Results Modernization Act of 2010 or the Transparency Act of 2014. There is some data that is also required to be reported to various government agencies and Congress or in response to a FOIA request. Next slide. This serves as a benefit to the grantees as well, because BJA can use the data to develop performance reports. These are the snapshots that highlight performance accomplishments by the program, as well as those successes. We encourage grantees to check these out on our website. To support data requests, BJA supports many types of requests that include internal BJA inquiries, congressional requests, as stated before, or even those FOIA requests. Then to inform funding programs and TTA decisions, these results can help inform the budget, strategic plans, and future funding. This helps to let BJA assess the priorities, NOFOs, and informational resources and guides. Next. So now we can get into the discussion when it comes to reporting the data out using the 3Ws. It is important to understand where, when, and what data is needed during the reporting period. So we'll cover that now. So we can start with where to report that data. The Performance Measurement Tool, also known as the PMT, and Just Grants are the two online platforms that are used for data reporting. As a PDMP grantee, you will be reporting your performance measure data into the PMT system on a quarterly basis. This image just demonstrates what you will see when you log in to begin reporting into the PMT system. There is a report that is generated by the PMT that you must upload into the Just Grant system on a semi-annual basis, and that will occur in January as well as in July. These links will lead you to the login platforms for both the PMT and Just Grant system. As you plan out for your reporting of the data, we have provided a table with some important information. This table shows the dates for each reporting period. For each reporting period, those dates need to be met in order to submit your final reports. So whether that's in the PMT system or the Just Grant system or both, the deadlines for each reporting period is detailed as well. For those PDF generated reports, there are certain requirements that are needed. So for example, as of January 2025, there will be 2 PMT reports that would have needed to be uploaded into the Just Grant system. And that is possible when the July to September 2024 period, as well as the October to December 2024 period are complete. Next slide. To prepare for that data that is needed for the PMT to report quarterly, we have attached a copy of the performance measurement questionnaire to the slide. Here's an image of what the questionnaire looks like in PDF format that covers the questions that will be located on the PMT. And just as a quick tip, this guide can be used to begin the tracking of your data so you can start to prepare in advance for the necessary data needed for each reporting period before the deadline. The data that you are reporting on is unique to your program using the PDMP questionnaire. The questionnaire is organized into 3 sections. The first question section covers general award administration information, which is used for the activity status of your grant that has taken place during a specific period. The project-specific questions are for the activities, products, as well as the outcomes of your project. And the last section for the narrative questions are used to summarize the grantee's goals, barriers, and overall successes. I would like to mention that this is a special note. If you are a grantee with multiple awards that are active, then you are responsible for collecting all of that data on the PDMP questionnaire for each award. This image is just an example, quick screenshot of what it looks like when there are multiple active awards, and each active award is required to have its own narrative and closeout report associated with that award individually. I will now transition the questionnaire presentation to my colleague Sarah Shanice to go over PDMP specific performance measures.
Thank you, Armani, for the introduction. Yes, let's continue to talk more about program-specific performance measures for PDMP. The revised and current PDMP questionnaire contains new or updated performance measures in language, simplified data tables, updated award categories, and new sections. There are 3 general award questions. Grantees then have an option to manually click which category they fall under, Category 1 or Category 2. Category 1 contains a total of 8 questions, while Category 2 contains 12 questions. The questionnaire will still have a closeout and narrative section. Here, grantees will see 4 closeout questions and 6 narrative questions. Next slide, please. On this slide, we can see that general award administration activity will start with the well-known question, was there grant activity during the reporting period? If yes is selected, the PMT system will drop down question number 3 and allow you to select the appropriate category based on your award. Category 1 is for grantees who have Category 1 awards. You select this option if you are the authorized state, territory, or tribal agency that administers your PDMP. Category 2 is for grantees who have Category 2 awards. You select only if you received project-based awards in FY 2023 in support of data-driven responses, multi-state projects, or advancement of PDMP. Category 2 was funded in FY 2023 and supplemented in FY 2024. The Category 1 awards section consists of 2 subsections, which are PDMP users and system capabilities and PDMP data use and investigations. In the first section, PDMP users and system capabilities, grantees will answer questions under 2 additional sections, baseline prescriber and user data and data sharing. And you can see an example of that to the right. Category 1 award sections does include carry forward questions. Now, carry forward indicates that the grantee's response will carry forward and pre-populate in subsequent reporting periods. Grantees will not have to respond to the question each reporting period, but are able to make changes and updates if needed. This functionality only works in the PMT system. Please note that you may encounter various types of questions as you report on your program's grant activity. In general, while going through your questionnaire, there are additional questions that you might come across. For instance, grantees will see multiple choice questions where multiple response options are provided, and grantees should select the response that best reflects their project's activity during the reporting period. Multiple response questions allow grantees to select all responses that reflect their project activities during that reporting period. Open text questions may request numeric or text responses. If you do not know the data point, it is acceptable to report 9999 for unknown or NA. Finally, the system has a built-in skip pattern logic based on your responses to other questions. Therefore, please ensure you answer every question that appears. Within the subsection PDMP data use and investigations, you'll find updated questions and simplified inputs. If you look to the right, you can see an update to the specific question regarding how many reports your programs produced. Please be aware that the questionnaire in the PMT system will look slightly different and that the PDF is meant to use for guideline purposes. The Category 2 award section consists of subsections advancement of PDMP capabilities, PDMP data policies, procedures, and rules, data-driven decision-making, and multi-state collaborative efforts. As I mentioned on a previous slide, you will come across various types of questions. Specifically in Category 2, you can see how subsections contain both open text and multiple choice questions. An example of open text is question number 17 to the right, or and for multiple choice, question number 20. An example of built-in skip pattern logic is shown in question number 22 at the bottom of the attached image. Additionally, for some multiple choice questions, if a specific answer is selected, an additional question could trigger a drop-down question. Question number 20 triggers a drop-down open text question when yes is selected. Now, closeout questions will appear in the last reporting period before your narrative section. A grantee's responses are specific to each individual federal award. Grantees only respond to the closeout questions when activities have been completed and the award has come to an end. Complete the closeout section if you are conducting an evaluation on the effectiveness of your program. Please note, if you are not conducting an evaluation, select No to skip to the narrative section. Now, the semi-annual narrative questions. Grantees are required to complete the narrative questions in January, July, and at the end of the close of their award. In the narrative section, grantees can highlight their accomplishments and discuss their challenges. Previously, a similar section was called Goals and Objectives. These questions have been updated to better reflect goals and corresponding accomplishments and challenges. When responding to your narrative questions, grantees should include a description of their program goals when responding to accomplishments and challenge questions. We have provided an example on this slide. The program goal to the left is, as stated, within the award period, develop 3 training videos and provide 2 live webinars to educate users on PDMP best practices. The grantees stated that during the reporting period, they engaged in working groups to develop training and reached out potential users, and 80% of attendees had an increase in knowledge in post-event surveys. That was their accomplishment for the stated goal. For the challenges, the grantee provided the goal and stated, due to delay in funding during the COVID-19 pandemic, potential training and outreach regarding drug monitoring has been delayed for healthcare providers. If grantees have more than one goal each goal should be listed with the corresponding accomplishment and challenge. Now, we will transition over to the topic of data reporting and best practices. First, let's talk about why it's important for the data to be accurate. Grantee data is used in a number of ways for critical BJA and congressional functions, including but not limited to legislatively mandated reporting, informing and justifying federal budgets for future funding, responding to questions from legislators and other policymakers, publicly reported statistics, testifying before Congress, identifying promising practices in the field, and responsible use of federal funds. You are the best person to identify if something is incorrect in the reporting. We would also like to share some tips to improve data quality that your program can do from the very beginning. It is recommended that a designated staff person coordinates all performance measure data collection and entry to ensure consistency. Please start as soon as possible. Reporting begins the day your award starts. If this is the first time you will report data, make sure you are familiar with the data you will need to collect and report. Do this by reviewing the PDF version of the questionnaire. Ensure a backup person or personnel are aware of the data collection and reporting process so they can fill in if the designated staff person is unavailable or leaves the role. Do not duplicate reported activities, outcomes across reporting periods or awards if project is funded by multiple awards. And again, 9999 can be used if data is unavailable and provided, and you would need to provide an explanation or plan for addressing unavailable data. Please note, though, that 9999 should be used as a last resort because it is a requirement to provide all requested data if possible. Please ensure to build data collection and tracking into standard routines, scan other existing resources within your organizations that support related data collection activities, as well as make a plan for your data collection method and processes. Lastly, please ensure all subrecipient data or data you receive from contracted service providers is reviewed and validated before completing a data entry. I will now turn it back to Gabriella, where she will speak more about helpful resources and how to stay connected. Shortly after, she will jump into the Q&A session to give you a chance to ask any questions you might have regarding PDMP new measure reporting.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so it's important to know which help desk to contact so that your issue or question can be resolved quickly. So you can contact the PMT help desk if you have questions on the following. Questions on performance measures. If you'd like to schedule a TTA session for staff on data collection, PMT reporting, or understanding performance measures, PMT questions and account creations, unlocking previously submitted reports, and creating a semi-annual PMT report. You can then contact the Just Grants help desk with the following: account creation in Just Grants, navigating Just Grants to find progress reports, unlocking account or help with passwords, roles and permissions such as grant award administrator or entity administrator, error messages you may see, or uploading and attaching documents. On this slide, are a few websites that are worth bookmarking so you can go back and reference them. Specifically, I want to highlight the BJA Performance Measures webpage that has a lot of resources to help you report as well as your performance measures. There are also various training videos on the BJA YouTube channel that may be useful to you as well. Lastly, before we go into Q&A, I'd like to show that you can stay connected with us and find us on Facebook, X, YouTube, and subscribe to our newsletters, which I believe is in that QR code. You can also find more resources via the BJA website listed on the screen and included in the chat. And please stay connected. We hope that you enjoyed this session and this training, and we're excited to see what kind of questions that you have based on what we've presented today.